Jumping straight into Act 1 then, if you're appreciating the course so far, please consider sharing it via your social media. Please like, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Othello, like many of Shakespeare's plays, begins, to lift from the Latin, in media res. I'm pronouncing that one right, I am sure, I hope, compared to my prior course's pronunciation of cogito ergo sum, which should be cogito ergo sum. But there we go, give me a break, I hope. In media res begins and means in the middle of things. It happens in a great many of Shakespeare's plays. It happens in Macbeth with the witches, acting in a way like the Greek chorus, and also introducing the concept of the supernatural. Such an opening is often between two characters who are arguably not the main central roles. It's set away from the main action. In the case of Othello, it is some bickering between Iago and Roderigo. This technique is pretty common to modern dramas, TV serials, films, and it makes us as an audience feel as though we're eavesdropping. We've got to catch up on what we've previously missed out on. These characters who are away from the main thrust of the action, not so much in Iago's case, but definitely so in the case of Roderigo, set an agenda for the play that creates perhaps a sense of foreboding, because they establish an atmosphere of discontent or conflict that sets us in the audience at unease. We're dropped into a time of change, a time of confrontation over plot points that have already happened. And as we play catch-up, the agenda is set in terms of the core themes of the plot until we reach our denouement. So in this opening, who is it that they're talking about but our central eponymous tragic hero Othello? And how do they feel about him? See if you can identify the themes and preoccupations as you read through. Some of those might emerge for you to be ambition, reward, money, loyalty, promotion, nepotism. If you are unfamiliar with the idea of nepotism, the idea of somebody gaining a promotion because of preferment through family links or friend links, when somebody with greater merit might have got it, at least so the envious Iago thinks. There's another theme that I've not listed here, or in our core list of themes for the play overall. Envy, definitely something that Iago suffers. Reputation, experience for a job and reputation and promotion. Masculinity, Iago's very contrary views of the opposite sex, of love, versus the likes of Roderigo, or indeed our core characters who we like more. Definitely this idea of envy over ambition is something that occurs here to set this mood of discontent and conflict. As we move through the play, you may wish to consider where Iago utilises prose, normal speech, day-to-day speech, rather than the poetic iambic pentameter and verse that Shakespeare chiefly writes in. His use of rhetoric, persuasive language, his use of sophisms, deliberately false arguments in order to deceive and persuade. So in Act 1, Scene 1, we're thrust into this in media res bickering between Roderigo, arguably a minor character, and Iago about our eponymous hero Othello. Tush, never tell me. I take it much unkindly that thou, Iago, who hast had my purse as if the strings were thine, should know of this. Sblood, but you'll not hear me. If ever I did dream of such a matter abore me. Thou toldst me thou didst hold him in thy hate. Despise me if I do not. 3 great ones of the city in personal suit to make me his lieutenant, off cap to him, and by the faith of man, I know my price. I am worth no worse a place. So Roderigo here is admonishing Iago and is feeling manipulated by him. If only he were sharp enough to realise the extent to which he is. He complains that Iago hath handled his purse as if the strings were thine. He's complaining of having been manipulated and cheated out of money. And Roderigo asserts that Iago has told him previously that Iago hates him, meaning Othello. Iago then retorts, despise me if I do not. That doesn't mean he doesn't hate him or hate me. It means you should hate me if I didn't hate him. That might sound complicated, but it's one of the ways that Iago seeks to deceive people by ambiguously twisting language. Hate me if I don't hate him actually means the antithesis of what the language sounds like, that he is asserting, I assure you I do hate him. He's actually being honest about that hatred, but not honest about his reputation. He's been, Iago, in competition for the position of lieutenant to Iago. You'll see the spelling there, looks like lieutenant. Americans would pronounce it that way. In British English, it becomes lieutenant, as in the military position. Iago actually is an ensign. He is essentially a standard bearer who bears the coat of arms of Othello. That might be something that strikes us a little contrary, given that Othello is somebody who has worked his way out of slavery and is unlikely to have a coat of arms. Perhaps there's a little bit of irony in what Shakespeare is doing there. But Iago's complaint here is that he hates Othello because he's not gained a promotion, that instead went to Cassio. I know my price, I know what I am worth, and I was worth that position on merit, but it's gone to somebody better preferred. But he, as loving his own pride and purposes, evades them with bombast circumstance, horribly stuffed with epithets of war, and in conclusion none suits my mediators, for certes, he says, or certes, he says, I have already chose my officer. And what was he? Forsooth, a great arithmetician, one Michael Cassio, a Florentine, a fellow almost damned in a fair wife. So Iago's criticism here is that Cassio isn't up to the job. Essentially, that he's too much of a geek. He's an academic. He is all theory. He can do the maths, but isn't experienced enough in war. By calling him a Florentine, he is talking about the Italian city of Florence, a beautiful place known for the Ponte Vecchio and many art galleries to this day, associated then with a university city. And he's criticising academic learning over masculinity of experience. Italy actually contains the city Bologna, which is, I believe, the world's oldest university. Or if not the world's, I think it's the world's, at least Europe's. Note as well here, if you're unfamiliar, abhor, A-B-H-O-R, means hate and loathing. Iago goes on to critique the lack of experience of Cassio. He hath never set a squadron in the field, nor the division of a battle knows, more than a spinster, unless that bookish Theoric, wherein the toad consuls can propose as masterly as he. Mere prattle without practice is all his soldiership. He hasn't the experience. He's never taken a squadron, a group of soldiers into the field. I'm sure he has, but Iago seeks to use hyperbole to critique him. He doesn't know anything about battle. He is all theory. He's like an old unmarried woman, and he is all prattle, talk, over practice. But he, sir, had the election, and I, of whom his eyes had seen the proof at Rhodes, at Cyprus, and on other grounds, christened and heathen, must be belied and calmed by debtor and creditor. He, Iago, argues that he has greater warfare experience in the likes of Rhodes and Cyprus and other heathen earth, where unchristian battles were being fought against infidels, against Muslim enemies. This countercaster he in good name must his lieutenant be, and I, God bless the mark, his moorship's ancient, another job title. Some critics have criticised Othello as a play of too many motives. This is one of the many motives Iago gives the audience for his later wrongdoing. Iago thinks Cassio's all theory and no experience. He goes on, Iago, to complain of his hatred of Othello on a very different motivation a little later in the play that we'll come to later. By heaven, I would rather have been his hangman. Why, there's no remedy. 'Tis the curse of service. Preferment, who gets the promotion, goes by letter and affection through nepotism. Impress your examiner with that use of terminology. And not by old gradation, where each second stood heir to the first. Now, sir, bejudge yourself whether I, in any just term, am a fine to love the more. I would not follow him then. Oh, sir, content you. There's an example of sticomythia, which I mentioned in the last episode, that shared line. I would not follow him then. 7 syllables, taken over by Iago. Oh, sir, content you. Continues the line and makes it in an irregular line, showing their conflict, their agitation. I follow him to serve my turn upon him. We cannot all be masters, nor all masters cannot be truly followed. You shall mark me a duteous and knee-crooking knave. Iago pretends to be faithful to him, to serve his turn upon him, only for his own ulterior motives and benefits. He is a knee-crooking, he is bowing and scraping knave, a villain, a crook, a clown, that doting on his own obsequious bondage wears out his time much like his master's ass, meaning donkey, for naught but provender, and when he's old, cashiered, whip me such honest knaves. Others there are who, trimmed in forms and visages of duty, keep yet their hearts attending on themselves. He calls himself Obsequious. If you watched my Handmaid's course, you will know that I became obsessive about the palimpsest motif. Here, I want to lay the same emphasis on obsequious. There are a huge number of synonyms alongside this that I've noted down for you. If you are obsequious, you are pretending to be servile and loyal when you are really doing it for yourself. Colloquially, in slang, in day-to-day language, we'd call this guy a kiss-arse, or a brown-noser, or a yes-man. But to more formally state synonyms for obsequious, he is excessively obedient. He is servile. He bows and scrapes like a servant to too far an extent. He makes you feel sick with it. He's ingratiating. He's a sycophant. A sycophant is somebody that says, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir, to please who is coming up with the order, even when the idea isn't great. He's fawning. He's submissive. He's slavish. He's subservient, but he keeps his heart attending on himself for his own ulterior motives. He is not loyal, and he is not altruistic. If you're unfamiliar with the word altruism, if you have an altruistic attitude to something, then you are doing it for others' benefit. You aren't selfish, you are selfless. He is selfish. He's the opposite of altruism. He's not loyal. Retain this terminology. Retain a definition of obsequious. Use some synonyms for it, such as sycophantic, such as excessively servile, when in fact he does it for his own ulterior motives. And, throwing but shows of service on their lords, do well thrive by them, and when they have lined their coats, do themselves homage. These fellows have some soul, and such a one do I profess myself. I'm lining my pockets with his money. For, sir, it is as sure as you are Roderigo, were I the Moor, I would not be Iago. In following him, I follow but myself. Heaven is my judge, not I for love and duty. We've had the motif on the last page of whip me such honest knaves. When he is revealed at the very end of Act 5, he is taken off with the threat, torments will ope thy lips. You'll be tortured into telling what you did. For when my outward action doth demonstrate the native act and figure of my heart, in compliment extern, 'tis not long after but I will wear my heart upon my sleeve for doors to peck at. I am not what I am. I am deceitful. I am obsequious. I am a sycophant. I am one thing on the outside. I wear a visage, a mask of loyalty when I'm doing my own thing. What a full fortune does the thick lips owe if he can carry it thus? Thick lips being a racist slur for black facial features. Iago, therefore, is manipulating Roderigo into getting into the bad books of some of the Venetian white community and court of Venice. Call up her father. Rouse him. Her refers to Desdemona, who we've not yet met. Her father, Brabantio. Make after him. Poison his delight. Proclaim him in the streets, incense her kinsman, and, though he in a fertile climate dwell, plague him with flies. Though that his joy be joy, yet throw such chances of vexation on it as may lose some colour. Roderigo has an unrequited desire for Desdemona, and Iago suggests a way of taking revenge against Othello, who is in a clandestine secret relationship with Desdemona. He has in fact that night eloped and married her. This revenge would be by betraying Othello to Brabantio, who will not agree with this marriage. Brabantio, Desdemona's father, revealing to him that a black man has robbed the house of his daughter. And Roderigo, gullible as he is, comes across the house and decides that he will call aloud. Do, sir, with timorous accent and dire yell, as when, by night and negligence, the fire is spied in populous cities. What ho! Brabantio! Signor Brabantio, ho! Awake! What ho, Brabantio! Thieves! Thieves! Look to your house! Your daughter and your bags! Thieves! Thieves! In comes Brabantio. What is the reason of this terrible summons? What is the matter there? Signor, is your family all within? Are your doors locked? Why, wherefore you ask you this? Zoons, sir, you're robbed. For shame. Put on your gown. Your heart is burst. You have lost half your soul. Even now, very now, an old black ram is topping your white ewe. Arise! Arise! Awake the snorting citizens with the bell, or else the devil will make a grandsire of you. Arise, I say! So you need to imagine in the staging here, because we're just doing this audibly for the time being, that although Roderigo is shouting up to a balcony, Iago keeps himself further away out of sight. He is just a second voice, as opposed to Roderigo being in full view. We've got some crude sexual imagery here of mating or copulating. An old black ram is a bestial, animalistic, zoomorphic metaphor for Othello. To call him a black ram is to equate him to a goat. For your assessment objective 3 socio-historic context, the Elizabethan, Jacobean, Renaissance English mind would have associated a goat with having an excessive sexual libido, with being lascivious. Is topping, is mating or copulating, thrusting is the imagery there, with your white ewe. Desdemona, ewe connoting youth, white connoting innocence. The juxtaposition of old black ram satiating himself with white innocent ewe. What? Have you lost your wits? Most reverend signor, do you know my voice? Not I. What are you? My name is Roderigo. Oh, the worse a welcome. I have charged thee not to haunt about my doors. In honest plainness thou hast heard me say, my daughter is not for thee. Roderigo's already attempted to court Desdemona and been told no. And now in madness, being full of supper and distempered in draughts, having gotten drunk, upon malicious bravery, having gotten roused by too much drink, dost thou come to start my quiet? Sir, but thou must needs be sure. My spirit and my place have in them power to make this bitter to thee. He threatens the consequences of this. Patience, good sir. What tell'st thou me of robbing? This is Venice. My house is not a grange. Most grave Brabantio, in simple and pure soul, I come to you. Zounds, sir! You are one of those that will not serve God if the devil bid you, because we come to do you service, and you think we are ruffians. You'll have your daughter covered with a Barbary horse. You'll have your nephews neigh to you. You'll have coursers for cousins and jennets for Germans. He associates Othello to a black African horse and conveys the idea that their offspring will be animalistic. The zoomorphic animal imagery here is associating in the Jacobean mind black with animalistic, goats, monkeys. I am not in a racist way associating black people with monkeys. That is a piece of imagery that is used later in the play with a very specific sexual connotation. What profane wretch art thou? I am one, sir, that comes to tell you your daughter and the Moor are now making the beast with two backs, having sexual intercourse. Thou art a villain. You are a senator. This thou shalt answer. I know thee, Roderigo. Sir, I will answer anything, but I beseech you, if it be your pleasure and most wise consent, as partly as I find it is, that your fair daughter, at this odd even and dull watch of the night, at this late time, transported with no worse nor better guard, but with a knave of common hire, a gondolier, to the gross clasps of a lascivious Moor, lascivious meaning lustful, oversexed, having an excessive libido. If this be known to you in your allowance, then we have done you bold and saucy wrongs. But if you know not this, my manners tell me we have your wrong rebuke. If you knew your daughter was out, then tell us off. But we're coming to do you a favour. Do not believe that from the sense of all civility I thus would play and trifle with your reverence. Your daughter, if you have not given her leave, I say again, hath made a gross revolt, tying her duty, beauty, wit, and fortunes in an extravagant and wheeling stranger of here and everywhere. Straight satisfy yourself. If she be in her chamber or your house, let loose on me the justice of the state for thus deluding you. Strike on the tinder hoe, give me a taper, call up all my people. This accident is not unlike my dream. Belief of it oppresses me already. Light, I say, light! Out Brabantio goes, and Iago says to Roderigo, Farewell, for I must leave you. It seems not meet nor wholesome to my place to be produced if I shall stay against the Moor. Brabantio learns Roderigo's name because of this, but not Iago's. Iago has got to slip away so that he's not revealed to Othello or anybody else, and this is part of his manipulation of Roderigo. Othello can't know that Iago told the tale. For I do know the state, however this may gall him with some check, I can't be seen to Brabantio, Iago says to Roderigo, but really it's more to do with not being known to be a traitor to Othello. Cannot with safety cast him, for he's embarked with such loud reason to the Cyprus wars, which even now stands in act, that for their souls another of his fathom they have none to lead their business. In which regard, though I do hate him as I do hell pains, yet for necessity of present life I must show out a flag and sign of love, fake it, which is indeed but sign, a mask, not real. that you shall surely find him. Lead to the sagittary, the raised search, and there will I be with him. So, farewell. Out goes Iago, and in comes Brabantio in his nightgown with his servants. It is too true an evil. Gone she is, and what's to come of my despised time is naught but bitterness. Now, Roderigo, where didst thou see her? Oh, unhappy girl, with the Moor, say'st thou? Who would be a father? How didst thou know 'twas she? Oh, she deceives me past thought. What said she to you? Get me more tapers. Raise all my kindred. Are they married, think you? Truly, I think they are. Oh, heaven, how got she out? She's his property as far as he's concerned. Oh, treason of the blood to have married somebody black. Fathers, from hence trust not your daughters' minds by what you see them act. Is there not charms by which the property of youth and maidenhood must be abused? Have you not read, Roderigo, of some such thing? Yes, sir, I have indeed. Call up my brother. Oh, would you had had her. Some one way, some another. A lesser white guy would be better than a black. Do you know where we may apprehend her and the Moor? I think I can discover them, if you please to get good guard and go along with me. Pray you lead on. At every house I'll call. I may command at most. Get weapons, ho! And raise some special officers of night. On, good Roderigo, I will deserve your pains. In cutting then to scene 2 of Act 1, in comes Othello, now joined with Iago, and attendants and torches. Iago pretends to be Othello's faithful supporter in the face of Brabantio's impending anger about the secret marriage to Desdemona. Othello's confident that his good service to Venice will be his defence. Though in the trade of war I have slain men, yet do I hold it very stuff of the conscience to do no contrived murder. I lack iniquity sometimes to do me service. 9 or 10 times I had thought to have yerked him here under the ribs. He's threatening to have stabbed somebody, in this case Brabantio. 'Tis better as it is. Nay, but he prated and spoke such scurvy and provoking terms against your honour. Iago chiefly, throughout the play, manipulates others into reaching the wrong conclusions. But here is one of the few times that he outright lies about what Brabantio has said about Othello. He goes on to do it significantly later too, but most of the time he plants the seeds of doubt rather than explicitly lying in a way that he can be got for. That with the little godliness I have, I did full hard forbear him. But I pray you, sir, are you fast married? Be assured of this, that the Magnifico is much beloved, and hath in his effect a voice potential as double the Duke's. He will divorce you, or put upon you what restraint or grievance the law, which with all his might to enforce on it, will give him cable. Let him do his spite. My services, which I have done, the Signory shall out-tongue his complaints. He's confident that his good service will be in his favour. 'Tis yet to know which, when I know that boasting is an honour, I shall promulgate. I fetch my life and being from men of royal siege. and my demerits may speak unbonneted as to proud a fortune as this that I have reached. For know, Iago, but that I love the gentle Desdemona, and I would not my unhoused free condition put into circumscription and confined from the sea's worth. But look, what light comes yond. Here, then, Othello talks of his love for Desdemona, not lust. And he talks about being ready to defend it, even as he would defend it from the racing in of the sea, a motif, a piece of imagery that occurs as a threat several times throughout Shakespeare's language in Othello. Those are the raised father and his friends. You were best to go to it. Not I. I must be found. My parts, my title, and my perfect soul shall manifest me rightly. Is this they? By Janus, I think so. He is confident of his perfect soul, and that he will be able to defend himself. Iago here swears by Janus. This is very much an example of Iago's dramatic irony, because he is a duplicitous character. Janus was the Roman god of January, with two faces, one looking back toward winter and the other forward toward summer. This idea of being two-faced, as we would put it in modern slang, meaning being duplicitous, being a sneak, being a liar, which is precisely, in dramatic irony, what Iago is. And we are read into that from the off and privy to it as an audience. The servants of the Duke and my lieutenant. What goodness of the night upon you, friends? What is the news? The Duke does greet you, General, and he requires your post-haste appearance, even on the instant. What is the matter, you think? Something from Cyprus, as I may divine. It is a business of some heat. The galleys have sent a dozen sequent messengers this very night at one another's heels, and many of the consuls, raised and met, are at the Duke's already. You have been hotly called for. Cassio says that the Venetian court are already looking for him, not Brabantio, but because of an enemy attack. When, not being at your lodging to be found, the Senate hath sent about 3 several quests to search you out. 'Tis well I am found by you. I will but spend a word here in the house, and go with you. Ancient, what makes he here? Faith, he tonight hath boarded a land carrack, and if it prove lawful prize, he's made for ever. I do not understand. He is married. To who? Married to... Come, Captain, will you go? Have with you. Here comes another troop to seek for you. In comes Brabantio along with Roderigo and the torch-bearing officers. It is Brabantio, General. Be advised. He comes to bad intent. Hola, stand there. Signor, it is the Moor. Down with him, thief! You, Roderigo, come, sir, I am for you. Keep up your bright swords, for the dew will rust them. Good signor, you shall more command with years than with your weapons. Oh, thou foul thief! Where hast thou stowed my daughter? Damned as thou art, thou hast enchanted her, for I'll refer me to all things else, if she in chains of magic were not bound, whether a maid so tender, fair, and happy, so opposite to marriage, that she shunned the wealthy curled darlings of our nation, would ever have it to incur a general mock? Brabantio here accuses Othello of having enchanted his daughter. Where hast thou stowed her? Makes her seem like a possession that has been stolen and locked away against her will. He accuses Othello of black witchcraft, using dark magic and drugs to snare her, in chains of magic bound. The semantic field is of being imprisoned against her will, which is quite the reverse of what's been the case. There's a racial association here between being black and witchcraft, or lack of Christianity. Remember, Venice is the Christian West meeting the Muslim, Arabic, or otherwise non-Christian East. Tincur it and run from her guardage to the sooty bosom, the black chest, of such a thing as thou? Something that she would fear, to fear, not to delight. Judge me the world, if 'tis not gross in sense that thou hast practised on her foul charms, enchanted her with black magic, abused her delicate youth with drugs or minerals that weaken motion, wooed her with potions or poisons. I'll have it disputed on. 'Tis probable and palpable to think. I therefore apprehend and do not attach thee for an abuser of the world, a practiser of arts inhibited and out of warrant. Lay hold upon him. If he do resist, subdue him at his peril. Hold your hands, both of you, my inclining and the rest. Were it my cue to fight, I should have known it without a prompter. Whither will you come, that I go to answer this your charge? To prison, till fit time of law and course of direct session call thee to answer. Brabantio's certain that the Duke will favour him and not Othello, but later the Turkish threat to Cyprus, a colony, a defensive position of Venice, is far too important. What if I do obey? How may the Duke be therewith satisfied, whose messengers are here about my side, upon some present business of the state, to bring me in to him? 'Tis true, most worthy Signor, the Duke's in council, and your noble self, I am sure, is sent for. How now, the Duke in council? In this time of the night? Bring him away, mine's not an idle cause. The Duke himself, or any of my brothers of the state, cannot but feel this wrong as 'twere their own. For if such actions may have passage free, bond slaves and pagans shall our statesmen be. If this black character can get away with stealing away with my daughter, then surely the governing classes are pagans, are not Christian. He uses very strong hyperbole here of a religious semantic field for what he would consider a lack of justice if this doesn't go his way. Scene 3 introduces us to the Duke and some further senators and officers. The Duke reading from a document. There's no composition in these news that gives them credit. Indeed, they are disproportioned. My letters say 107 galleys, and mine 140. There's confusion over the scale of the threat. And mine 200. But though they jump not on a just account, as in these cases where Ames' report is oft with difference, yet do they all confirm a Turkish fleet and bearing up to Cyprus. Nay, 'tis possible enough to judgment. I do not so secure me in the error, but the main article I do approve in fearful sense. What ho! What ho! What ho! A messenger from the galleys. Now, what's the business? the Turkish preparation makes for Rhodes. Actually, we wonder whether there is some sort of mistake here on Shakespeare's part in terms of the history, or it might be that Rhodes, being more geographically proximate to Venice, was something that was used as a plot device by Shakespeare to make more convincing the need for these characters to act with as much haste as possible. So I bid report here the state by Signor Angelo. How say you by this change? This cannot be, by no essay of reason. 'Tis a pageant to keep us in false gaze, or maybe it's a deliberate mistake to show their confusion. When we consider the importance of Cyprus to the Turk as the gate defensive point to the Levant, to modern-day Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and their religious Christian versus Muslim significance. And let ourselves again but understand that as it more concerns the Turk than Rhodes, so may he with more facile question bear it, for that it stands not in such warlike brace, but altogether lacks the abilities that Rhodes is dressed in. If we make thought of this, we must not think the Turk is so unskilful to leave that latest which concerns him first, neglecting an attempt of ease and gain to wake and wage a danger profitless. Nay, in all confidence, he's not for Rhodes. We must defend Cyprus. Here is more news. In comes a messenger. The Ottomites, reverend and gracious, steering with due course toward the Isle of Rhodes, have there enjointed them with an after fleet. The numbers are growing. Aye, so I thought. How many, as you guess? Of 30 sail, and now they do re-stem their backward course, bearing with frank appearance their purpose toward Cyprus. Signor Montano, your trusty and most valiant servitor, with his free duty recommends you thus, and prays you to believe him. 'Tis certain then for Cyprus. Marcus Lucius, is not he in town? He's now in Florence. Write from us to him. Post, haste. Dispatch. Here comes Brabantio and the valiant Moor. Without much subtlety, then, Shakespeare sets up the agenda that they consider the more valiant. He is well favoured. He's of good reputation. Valiant Othello, we must straight implore you against the general enemy Ottoman. I did not see you. Welcome, gentle signor. We lacked your counsel and your help tonight. So did I yours. Good your grace pardon me, neither my place nor aught I heard of business hath raised me from my bed, nor doth the general care take hold on me, for my particular grief is of so floodgate and o'erbearing a nature that it engluts and swallows other sorrows, and it is still itself. Why? What's the matter? My daughter. Oh, my daughter. Dead? Aye, to me. Notice the sticomythia there, the sharing of the line. My daughter, oh, my daughter. 7 syllables. Dead, 8. I to me, 11. The agitation of this scene. She is abused, stolen from me, and corrupted by spells and medicines bought of mountebanks. For nature so preposterously to err, being so deficient, blind or lame of sense, sans witchcraft could not. I'm anglicising that there. Sans, with the same spelling in the modern day French, translates literally and directly as without. I'm anglicising it as sans here. He asserts that it could not have been without witchcraft that Othello did this. Whoe'er he be that is this foul proceeding hath thus beguiled your daughter of herself, and you of her, the bloody book of law shall show yourself read in the bitter letter after your own sense, yea, though our proper son stood in your action. Humbly I thank your grace. Here is the man, this Moor, whom now it seems your special mandate for the state affairs hath hither brought. We're very sorry for it. What, in your own part, can you say to this? Nothing but that is so. Most potent, grave, and reverend signors, my very noble and approved good masters, that I have ta'en away this old man's daughter is most true. True, I have married her. The very head and front of my offending hath this extent, no more. Rude am I in my speech, and little blessed with the soft phrase of peace, for since these arms of mine had 7 years' pith, till now some 9 moons wasted, they have used their dearest action in the tented field, and little of this great world can I speak more than pertains to feats of broil and battle. And therefore little shall I grace my cause in speaking for myself. He is being deliberately self-deprecating here. He says, it's true, I've taken this old man's daughter and married her. Rude am I in my speech, little blessed with soft phrase. He says that he doesn't have the eloquence to defend himself in white society. But really, he's confidently being falsely self-deprecating, criticising himself. Later, quite the reverse is the case, whereby Iago seeks upon what some critics call the enemy within the gates, the idea that actually Othello will go on to doubt himself and his retention of Desdemona. He defends himself and says that although he can't speak of anything but for feats of broil and battle, to subtly remind these men of his being very well favoured as a warrior, he will a round unvarnished tale deliver of my whole course of love, what drugs, what charms, what conjuration, and what mighty magic, for such proceeding I am charged withal, I won his daughter. He goes on very eloquently then to take on Brabantio's semantic field of potions and witchcraft, saying that he will plainly, round and unvarnished, speak of how he wooed and attracted Desdemona. He argues in the next page that he won her through tales of daring do, that she romanticised him, the black man, as exotic. A maiden never bold of spirit, so still and quiet as her motion, blushed at herself, and she, in spite of nature, of years, country, credit, everything, to fall in love with what she feared to look upon, a black man. It is a judgment maimed and most imperfect, that will confess perfection so could err against all rules of nature, and must be driven to find out practices of cunning hell. Why this should be. I therefore vouch again, that with some mixtures powerful o'er the blood, or with some dram conjured to this effect, he wrought upon her. To vouch this is no proof. You can't simply make this accusation without proof, says the Duke, without more wider and more overt test than these thin habits and poor likelihoods of modern seeming do prefer against him. But Othello, speak. Did you, by indirect or forced courses, subdue and poison this young maid's affections? Or came it by request and such fair question as soul to soul affordeth? I do beseech you, send for the lady to the sagittary, and let her speak of me before her father. If you do find me foul in her report, the trust, the office I do hold of you, Not only take away, but let your sentence even fall upon my life. He has such faith that Desdemona will say positive things about him. He says, execute me if she says anything ill or wrong of me. Fetch Desdemona hither. Ancient, conduct them. You best know the place. Until she come, as truly as to heaven I do confess the vices of my blood. He is converted to Christianity. He's being accused of witchcraft. So justly to your grave ears I'll present how I did thrive in this fair lady's love, and she in mine. Say it, Othello. Her father loved me, oft invited me, still questioned me the story of my life. From year to year, the battles, sieges, fortunes that I have passed, the tales of daring do, he's a man's man, he's admired with this warrior masculinity. I ran it through, even from my boyish days to the very moment that he bade me tell it, wherein I spoke of most disastrous chances, of moving accidents by flood and field, of hair-breadth escapes, the imminent deadly breach of being taken by the insolent foe and sold to slavery. I took him through every childhood trauma, being sold into slavery, of my redemption thence, getting out of slavery, the portents of my traveller's history, wherein of antres vast and deserts idle, rough quarries, rocks and hills whose heads touch heaven. It was my hint to speak, such was my process, one of the cannibals that each other eat, the anthropophagi, and men whose heads do grow beneath their shoulders, the enemies that he has had to battle, cannibals, pygmy tribes. These things to hear would Desdemona seriously incline. She was entranced, if anything, by his stories. But still the house affairs would draw her thence, which ere she could with haste dispatch, she'd come again, and with a greedy ear devour up my discourse, which I, observing, took once a pliant hour, and found good means to draw from her a prayer of earnest heart, that I would all my pilgrimage dilate, whereof by parcels she had something heard, but not intentively. I did consent, and often did beguile her of her tears, when I did speak of some distressful stroke that my youth suffered. My story being done, she gave me for my pains a world of sighs, something that shows her sympathy, but possibly is also synonymous with desire. As one of my prior A-level students pointed out, I thought very insightfully. She swore, i'faith, 'twas strange, 'twas passing strange, 'twas pitiful, 'twas wondrous pitiful. She wished she had not heard it, yet she wished that Hearn made her such a man. She thanked me, and bade me, if I had a friend that loved her, I should but teach him how to tell my story, and that would woo her. Upon this hint I spake. She loved me for the dangers I had passed, and I loved her that she did pity them. This only is the witchcraft I have used. Here comes the lady. Let her witness it. He wooed her with his tales of daring do, not with witchcraft. The Duke immediately says, I think this tale would win my daughter too. Good Brabantio, take up this mangled matter at the best. Men do their broken weapons rather use than their bare hands. I pray you hear her speak. If she confessed that she was half the wooer, destruction on my head if my bad blame light on the man. Come hither, gentle mistress. Do you perceive in all this noble company where you most owe obedience? I'm your father, and you should obey me in this patriarchal society. My father, I do perceive a divided duty here. To you, I am bound for life and education. My life and education both do learn me how to respect you. You are the lord of duty. I am hitherto your daughter. But here's my husband. And so much duty as my mother showed to you, preferring you before her father, so much I challenge that I may profess due to the more, my lord. God be with you. I have done. Please it your grace, on to the state affairs. I had rather adopt a child than get it. Come hither, Moor. I here do give thee that, but with all my heart, which but thou hast already, with all my heart I would keep from thee. For your sake, jewel, precious possession, within the semantic field, the lexis, I'm glad at soul I have no other child, for thy escape would teach me tyranny, to hang clogs on them, to stop them walking away and escaping. A bit like Othello goes on to use a similar term, jesses, for wishing to tie her down like a bird of prey when he becomes possessive and jealous later. Let me speak like yourself and lay a sentence, which as Greece, if that's the right pronunciation, or step may help these lovers into your favour. When remedies are past, the griefs are ended by seeing the worst, which late on hopes depended to mourn a mischief that is past and gone, is the next way to draw new mischief on. What cannot be preserved when fortune takes, patience her injury a mockery makes. That robbed the smiles steals something from the thief. He robs himself that spends a bootless grief. Don't take grief in this, take joy in the marriage. So let the Turk of Cyprus us beguile. We lose it not so long as we can smile. He bears the sentence well that nothing bears, but the free comfort which from thence he hears, but he bears both the sentence and the sorrow, that to pay grief must of poor patience borrow. These sentences to sugar, or to gall, something bitter, bile, vomit, being strong on both sides, are equivocal. But words are words. I never yet did hear that the bruised heart was pierced through the ear. I humbly beseech you, proceed to the affairs of state. The Turk with most mighty preparation makes for Cyprus. Othello, the fortitude of the place, is best known to you. And though we have there a substitute of most allowed sufficiency, yet opinion, a sovereign mistress of effects, throws a more safer voice on you. You must therefore be content to slubber the gloss of your new fortunes with this more stubborn and boisterous expedition. Note the change of shape there. The Duke is not speaking in pentameter or verse, I don't think. The Turk with a most mighty preparation makes... it's irregular anyway. He's talking of something important and he's stressed, so it's dropped into prose. Othello, however, keeps calm and maintains his verse below. The tyrant custom, most grave senators, hath made the flinty and steel couch of war my thrice-driven bed of down. I'm used to this. I'm comfortable with it. I do agonize a natural and prompt alacrity I find in hardness, and do undertake the present wars against the Ottomites. Most humbly, therefore, bending to your state, I crave fit disposition for my wife. My wife needs to come along. Due reference of place and exhibition, with such accommodation and besought as levels of her breeding. Why, at her father's. I will not have it so. Nor I. Nor would I reside to put my father in impatient thoughts by being in his eye. Most gracious Duke, to my unfolding lend your prosperous ear, and let me find a character in your voice to assist my simpleness. What would you, Desdemona? That I love the more to live with him. My downright violence and storm of fortunes may trumpet to the world, my heart subdued even to the very quality of my lord. I saw Othello's visage, his mask, in his mind, and to his honours and his valiant parts did I my soul and fortunes consecrate, so that, dear lords, if I be left behind, a moth of peace, and he go to the war, the rights for why I love him are bereft. She will be drawn to him like a moth to a flame, and I a heavy interim shall support by his dear absence. Let me go with him. Let her have her voice. Vouch with me, heaven, that therefore I beg it not to please the palate of my appetite. It's not because I am desperate to have her sexually. They don't seem to have yet had time to consecrate their marriage. They have never had sexual relations, nor comply with heat, the young affects in me defunct, and proper satisfaction, but to be free and bounteous to her mind, and hand defend your good souls, that you think I will your serious and great business scant, for she is with me. This will not distract me from the work of war. No, when light-winged toys of feathered Cupids steal with wanton dullness my speculative and officed instruments, that my disports and corrupt and taint my business, let housewives make a skillet of my helm. I won't forget my swordsmanship just because of Cupid striking me with love. The feathered flying wings of Cupid as an antithesis with steel and battle. But it won't distract me, he argues. And all indign and base adversities make head against my estimation. Be it as you shall privately determine, either for her stay or going, the affair cries haste, and speed must answer it. You must away tonight. With all my heart. At 9 in the morning, here we'll meet again. Othello, leave some officer behind, and he shall our commission bring to you, with such things else of quality and respect as doth import you. He is going to trust Iago to be left behind long enough to gather what's necessary and bring that along with him, along with Desdemona. He trusts his wife to Iago. So please your grace, my ancient, a man he is of honesty and trust. Dramatic irony. For all his battle experience, Othello isn't experienced to be a good judge. He assumes honesty where it's not the case. He is fooled by Iago's sycophancy. To his conveyance I assign my wife. With what else needful your good grace shall think to be sent after me. Let it be so. Good night to everyone. And, noble signor, if virtue no delighted beauty lack, your son-in-law is far more fair than black. This is the Duke's approval of Othello to Brabantio. The idea of being fair-skinned, being of good Christian nature versus evil. Don't be fooled by his black skin. Adieu, brave Moor, use Desdemona well. Look to her more, if thou hast eyes to see. She hath deceived her father, and may thee, is probably one of the pivoting foundation stones of the thematic agenda of this play. Having faith in the fidelity of his wife, or suspecting jealously her deception. At this point, Othello confidently asserts my life upon her faithfulness and fidelity. With none too subtle repeated dramatic irony, honest Iago. My Desdemona must I leave to thee. I prithee let thy wife attend on her, and bring them after in the best advantage. Come, Desdemona, I have but an hour of love. To consecrate the marriage, possibly, is that long enough? Of worldly matters, and destruction to spend with thee. We must obey the time. Iago, what sayest thou, noble heart? What will I do, think'st thou? Why, go to bed and sleep. I will incontinently drown myself. If thou dost, I shall never love thee after. Why, thou silly gentleman, 'tis silliness to live when to live is torment, and then we have a prescription to die when death is our physician. So Iago treats Roderigo's lamentations as foolish, and in a very, might I apply the term toxic masculinity, he critiques Roderigo's masculinity as needing to win Desdemona away from Othello in a way that both conveys toxic masculinity and, I would expect we would note, misogyny. Oh, villainous! I have looked upon the world 4 times 7 years, and since I could distinguish betwixt a benefit and an injury, I never found a man that knew how to love himself. Notice the shape, we've dropped into prose. Roderigo doesn't seem to be, but Iago reveals his true evil nature here. He speaks in prose when crudely sexually objectifying women or plotting evil things. Ere I would say I would drown myself for the love of a guinea hen, I would change my humanity with a baboon. Iago is not capable of love of a woman. He only thinks of them as sexual objects, so of what worth would he want to commit suicide over one? What should I do? I confess it is my shame to be so fond, but it is not in my virtue to amend it. Virtue? A fig! Something to throw away. 'Tis in ourselves that we are thus or thus. It's your decision how you should approach this. Our bodies are our gardens, to the which of our wills are gardeners. Do what you like. So that if we plant nettles or sow lettuce, set hyssop or weed up thyme, supply it with one gender of herbs or distract it with many, have as many women as you like, either to have it sterile with idleness or manured with industry, having lots of sex or not, is your choice. Why, the power and corrigible authority of this lies in our wills. If the balance of our lives had not one scale of reason to poise another of sensuality, the blood and baseness of our natures would conduct us to most preposterous conclusions. But we have reason to cool our raging motions, our carnal stings, our sexual lusts, our unbited lusts, whereof I take this that you call love to be a sect or a scion. Love's not real, it's just lust. It cannot be, says Roderigo, who has more moral fibre. It is merely a lust of the blood and a permission of will. Come, be a man! Drown thyself! Drown cats and blind puppies. I have professed me thy friend, and I confess my knit to thy deserving with cables of perdurable toughness. If you could never better stead thee than now, I'm your friend, I've lied for you, I've tied myself into these lies. Put money in thy purse. Make some savings that you can do something with later. You can steal this woman away if you're a man's man about it, in Iago's toxic concept of the thing. It cannot be that Desdemona should long continue her love for the Moor. Put money in thy purse. It can't be she'll continue to love a black man for very long. It's too unnatural. She'll stray, assuming the kind of infidelity and sexual attitude, promiscuity that he has. It was a violent commencement in her, a sudden thing to do, and thou shalt see an unanswerable sequestration. So I've actually inadvertently missed a line there that involves an interesting bit of imagery, the idea of a usurped beard. To usurp something is to launch a coup. Usurp is part of a military semantic field of taking something over by force. In this case, what Iago would like Roderigo to do in terms of taking his woman. He is saying here, this is taking over your beard, i.e. you aren't even manly enough to grow a beard. Stop being a wuss and, within this toxic masculinity, get on with taking sexually what woman you want. Meaning that she will feel trapped, that she will be sequestered with a black man, not in white society as much, and will stray away, so he thinks. Put but money in thy purse. These Moors are changeable in their wills. Fill thy purse with money. The food that to him now is as luscious as locusts shall be to him shortly as bitter as a coloquintida. His carnal lust will be as quick and ravaging as a plague. She must change for youth. Once she gets older, when she is sated with his body, she will find the heir of her choice. She'll get sexual gratification and want to move on. Not the case. She's got moral fibre. He doesn't. Therefore put money in thy purse. If thou wilt needs damn thyself, do it more delicate way than drowning. Make all the money thou canst. If sanctimony and a frail vow betwixt an erring barbarian and a super subtle Venetian be not too hard for my wits and all the tribe of hell, thou shalt enjoy her. Therefore make money. A pox of drowning thyself. It is clean out of the way. Seek thou rather to be hanged in compressing thy joy than be drowned and go without her. You're not a man. If you're going to drown yourself, enjoy her, have her sexually. Wilt thou be fast to my hopes if I depend on the issue? Pathetic old Roderigo, thou art sure of me. Go, make money, because that's what I want to manipulate out of you. I have told thee often, and I retell thee again and again. I hate the Moor. My cause is hearted, thine hath no less reason. Let us be conjunctive, let us work together in our revenge against him. If thou canst cuckold him, if you can steal his wife away and have an affair with her, he will become the legendary cuckold, the half man, half beast, growing horns to show that he has not controlled and sexually satisfied his excessively lascivious and promiscuous wife. A concept that, again, misogynistically in a toxic way, equates man to possessing woman as sex object. If thou canst cuckold him, if thou dost thyself a pleasure, mere sport, there are many events in the womb of time which will be delivered. Be patient, it's coming. Traverse, go, provide thy money. We will have more of this tomorrow. Adieu. Where shall we meet in the morning? At my lodging. I'll be with thee betimes. Go to, farewell. Do you hear, Roderigo? What say you? No more of drowning, do you hear? I am changed. Roderigo's easily swayed. He's gullible. Go to, farewell. Put money enough in your purse. I'll sell all my land, declares the gullible Roderigo as he goes. So, this is the first of our soliloquies at the end of Act 1, making the audience far more complicit in Iago's plotting. Thus do I ever make my fool my purse. For I my own gained knowledge should profane, for I would time expend such a snipe but for my sport and profit. I hate the Moor, and 'tis thought abroad that twixt my sheets he hath done my office. This is what one of the many critics says it makes this play a play of too many motives, or is it simply a part of Iago's duplicity? At the very beginning of Act 1, we've been told that his motivation is jealousy, envy over a lack of promotion. Here, he thinks that he has been cuckolded by Othello, that Othello has had sexual relations with Emilia. There doesn't seem to be any evidence for it, although Emilia's attitudes might suggest otherwise later. Iago thinks Othello slept with Iago's wife Emilia, and that's one of his motivators, something that he is going to fill Othello's mind with the paranoia of in regard to Desdemona later. I know not if it be true, but I, for mere suspicion in that kind, will do as if for surety. I'll do all these evil things as though I'm sure of it, because I feel like a man slighted. He holds me well. He trusts in my honesty, and it's a false visage. It's Obsequious. The better shall my purpose work on him. Cassio's a proper man. Let me see now. To get his place, to get Cassio's job, and to plume up my will in double knavery, I'll kill two birds with one stone. How? Let's see. After some time, to abuse Othello's ear that he is too familiar with his wife. To lie, to imply that Cassio is having an affair with Desdemona and cuckolding Othello. He hath a person and a smooth disposed to be suspected, framed to make women false. He's handsome enough to make it believable. The Moor is of a free and open nature. He is honest, that thinks men honest that but seem so. and will be tenderly led by the nose as asses are. Because of his own honesty, he assumes it in others and will be an easily led target like a donkey. He's stupid. I have it. It is engendered. His plan is in place. Hell and night. He associates himself with the semantic field of the diabolical, must bring this monstrous birth to the world's light. So that brings us to the end of Act 1. Remember, please, my recommendation that you are going to take pause and spend a good long period of time at the end of each act filling in the A3 grid of imagery, motifs, language snippets on the A3 grid throughout each act. I am suggesting here that you prioritise your 6 most significant quotations from each act, but in fairness, that's probably a bit brief. It may not be enough. Think as you are going on about your argument. How are these choices of imagery mapping onto the themes of the play for your argument? Please, please, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you're aware of Act 2's episode coming along, and share via social media too. Please get this out to mates, friends, colleagues if you're finding it viable and useful. I really hope that it's enlightening both your study academically and enjoyment of Othello. That's my sincere desire, and I hope that I'm achieving that. Thanks. Finally, if you have any questions, by all means drop them in the comments below and I will endeavour to get back to them as soon as I possibly can. And if you want to add anything further to the analysis that we've done, refine a point that I've made, or add anything on bits and pieces of imagery that I have passed by on my way, by all means do so in the comments below.